everyone and welcome to the exam tips video for P5 relevant to the December 2015 ACCA exams. P5 is an exam where knowing what's going to come in is far less important than knowing how to tackle those questions. One of the key difficulties students face in this exam is being able to understand the requirements of the question. And a large part of that involves students dedicating a certain amount of time from their question time to reading and planning their answer and ensuring all parts of the question are answered. So there may be requirements where you have two questions embedded into one. It's important that they're bifurcated and you answer all parts of the question. And that can only come with question practice. Yet again, time management, as has been the case with some of your past exams on ACCA, will be prevalent on P5 as well. And hence, you need to have a definite plan of how much time you're going to spend on each question, each part of a question as well, before you start. So when you have a 25-mark question split into three parts, you should be able to define how much time you're going to spend on reading, how much on doing each part of the question. And as long as we systematically stick to that time, we would have addressed the basic requirements in all parts of the questions and scored enough to pass this exam. In terms of key topics that you might want to revise and maybe do a couple of extra questions on, these for the December 2015 exams, as far as I can see, are some of the topics that have remained a little bit under-examined recently, such as transfer pricing. You may be given a question where you are asked to evaluate an existing transfer price or evaluate the effect of changing the transfer price on the profitability of the company and the divisions within the company. It is also likely, as always, that you would be given a system of KPIs, a system of performance measures. It might be a report given to you, it might be just a description of what they currently measure or their current KPIs, and you could be asked to evaluate the current system of KPIs and talk about what's good and bad about the current system of KPIs. Further, to add to this, it is quite likely that they could introduce a model like the building block model or the performance pyramid into the scenario and ask you to discuss how that would impact the KPIs. Or rather, an alternative angle to that is to use these models to evaluate the existing system. Say, for example, on the building block model, you could be given a system of KPIs, what they do, how they set targets, and how they reward people, and then you could be asked to use the building block model, the three blocks within, which are the dimensions, the standards, and the rewards, and use that as a basis of commenting, of giving your opinion on what's nice about the system and what's not so nice about the system. Further, other areas that you must put a little bit of effort and energy into, please do revise the basic rudimentary concepts of activity-based costing. It is unlikely that you would have an extensive calculation on ABC, but being able to broadly exhibit your understanding of the calculation, maybe through some basic numbers, and being able to talk about the larger picture, as in the implications of ABC at the strategic and operational level, will be a useful skill. The last time the topic of risk and uncertainty was tested, particularly I mean the areas of maxi-max, maxi-min, mini-max, regret and so on, was in June 2014. And it's been a while since the examiners put up a question on those lines. So you should be fairly familiar, fairly okay with tackling questions on those areas, which aren't really very tough once you've mastered the basic ideas. Further, as always, every single exam has had a question on reward systems. You're given information on how people are rewarded and evaluated within an organization. In a given context, you will have to look at the reasonableness, the appropriateness of these reward systems, make some reasonable comments and identify what is lacking and what is good with the system and write about it. So you must probably look at the past 3 to 4 years just to familiarize yourself with how you tackle these kind of questions. In terms of calculations, while the exam generally tends to have only about 15 to 20 to max 25 marks of calculations, not beyond that, typical exam questions require you to do basic computations on the lines of computing some key KPIs. So you could be given a list of KPIs and asked to calculate that, and maybe comment on those as well. Further, the other areas that you might want to have a cursory look at, familiarize yourself with, are some quality concepts like TQM and Six Sigma and so on, and most definitely environmental management accounting, which is an area that's not been tested very heavily of late. There have been bits and pieces, but it is a contemporary topic, a very important topic. You must spend some time going through those as well. Now, that said, as I've said at the start of the video, on P5, it's never really about what comes in. It's all about answering the question given to you with bringing in a lot of common sense and very little technical knowledge. It's more about linking your answers to the context of the question, the scenario. And you get better and better at it as you do more and more questions. And at this stage, it's not about picking up, loads of questions and trying to do them. The focus ought to be on picking up maybe one or two past exams, doing them to time, trying to make sure addressing all the different parts, maybe reading the examiner's answers, the examiner's comments, to see whether you are misunderstanding requirements, because that's something that we need to overcome, and that can only be overcome with practice, by doing questions, working through whole scenarios, and then comparing your thought process with that of the examiner. So I wish you all the very best for your exams. Do focus on this. Don't worry too much about the topics on P5. It is largely irrelevant. It's about how you tackle it, and that's what really matters. Good luck.